She arrived with nothing but a faded backpack, a worn envelope, and a promise that she would be gone in 7 days. By the time that week was over, the quiet man who had spent years convincing himself he no longer needed anyone would discover that some people walk into your life for only a moment, yet leave footprints on your heart forever. What happened after she disappeared would become the greatest regret, and the greatest blessing, of his life. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps our family and our community continue sharing emotional stories that remind the world compassion still exists. Rowan Mercer had lived alone for nearly a decade in a peaceful lakeside town in northern Canada. He restored old furniture for a living, spending his afternoons transforming broken pieces into beautiful works of art. The silence inside his small cottage had become part of who he was. After losing his fiancée years earlier in a tragic accident, Rowan had quietly closed his heart to everyone around him. Neighbors respected him, but few truly knew him. His days followed the same routine until a local pastor asked him for one unusual favor. A young woman named Alara needed a safe place to stay for only 1 week while paperwork for a teaching position in another town was completed. Every guest house nearby was full because of a community festival, and she had nowhere else to go. Rowan almost refused. He valued his solitude more than anything. Yet something about the pastor's quiet confidence convinced him to agree. Alara arrived the following afternoon wearing a warm smile despite obvious exhaustion. She carried no expensive luggage, no complaints, and no expectations. She repeatedly thanked Rowan for opening his home, promising she would never be a burden. Rowan simply nodded and showed her the spare bedroom that had remained untouched for years. The first day passed quietly. Rowan expected awkward silence, but Alara possessed an unusual gift. She never forced conversation, yet somehow filled every room with warmth. She admired the handcrafted furniture, asked thoughtful questions about his work, and complimented details most people never noticed. For the first time in years, Rowan found himself explaining why certain pieces of wood carried unique patterns or how damaged furniture often became stronger after careful restoration. By the second afternoon, Alara offered to help clean the neglected flower beds outside the cottage. Rowan insisted there was no need, but she smiled and spent hours planting colorful wildflowers she had purchased with her own limited savings. She explained that flowers bloom even after harsh winters because they never believe cold weather lasts forever. Those words stayed with Rowan long after she finished planting. As the week continued, tiny changes appeared throughout the house. Fresh bread cooled on the kitchen counter every afternoon. Soft music played while sunlight poured through open windows. The dusty reading corner became comfortable again after Alara carefully arranged old books that Rowan had forgotten he owned. The cottage no longer felt like a place where someone merely existed. It felt alive. Yet behind Alara's gentle smile hid quiet sadness. Rowan occasionally noticed her staring at an old photograph before slipping it back into the worn envelope she always carried. One afternoon she finally shared her story. Her parents had died several years earlier, leaving her to care for her younger brother until he reached adulthood. Every dream she once held had been postponed while she worked multiple jobs to support him. Now that he had earned a scholarship overseas, she was finally trying to build a future for herself. Rowan admired her strength. She had every reason to become bitter, yet kindness remained her first response to every hardship. On the 6th afternoon, the two visited the weekly farmers' market. They laughed while sampling homemade jams and admired handcrafted artwork displayed by local artists. Rowan could not remember the last time he had laughed so naturally. Even strangers noticed how peaceful they looked walking beside the lake beneath the bright afternoon sun. That evening, Alara quietly thanked Rowan for giving her more than a place to sleep. She admitted she had almost lost faith in people's goodness after facing so many disappointments. Rowan wanted to tell her she had given him far more than he had ever offered her, but the words remained trapped inside him. The 7th morning arrived far too quickly. Rowan woke to find the guest room perfectly organized. The bed was neatly made. The flowers outside shimmered in the morning sunlight. On the kitchen table rested a handwritten letter beside the house key. Elara thanked him for restoring something far more valuable than her confidence. She wrote that sometimes people enter our lives only long enough to remind us who we used to be before pain convinced us to stop living. She hoped one day Rowan would open his heart not because someone asked him to, but because he deserved happiness again. By the time Rowan reached the bus station, Elara had already left. Days turned into weeks. Weeks became months. The cottage remained beautiful, but painfully quiet. Every flower blooming outside reminded Rowan of the woman who had stayed only 7 days yet somehow transformed years of loneliness into hope. He realized he missed not just her presence but the person he had become while she was there. Instead of returning to his old routine, Rowan began volunteering at the community center, repairing furniture for struggling families and teaching woodworking classes to teenagers. He smiled more often. He accepted invitations from neighbors. His life slowly became filled with purpose instead of isolation. Almost a year later, Rowan attended a regional education fundraiser where handcrafted furniture would be auctioned to support rural schools. As he arranged one of his restored tables, he noticed a familiar laugh across the exhibition hall. Elara stood speaking with teachers from several communities. She looked happier than he had ever seen her. For a brief moment, neither moved. Then they walked toward each other with quiet smiles that required no explanation. Elara explained that she had accepted a permanent teaching position nearby several months earlier. She often wondered whether Rowan had continued restoring furniture or returned to living alone. Rowan admitted her letter had changed everything. Because of those few pages, dozens of struggling families now owned repaired furniture, and many young people had discovered confidence through his workshops. She smiled with tears in her eyes, realizing that kindness had created ripples neither of them could have imagined. This time, neither of them allowed fear to speak louder than hope. Their friendship slowly grew into something deeper, built not on dramatic promises but on shared afternoons, honest conversations, and countless acts of quiet compassion. They eventually restored an old farmhouse together, filling every room with handmade furniture, laughter, books, flowers, and children they later welcomed through adoption. People often asked Rowan when he knew Elara was the love of his life. He always answered the same way. It wasn't when she arrived. It was when she left. Because losing her for even a short time taught him that some people don't simply stay in your home, they find a permanent place in your heart. Before this story ends, tell us in the comments, have you ever met someone who changed your life in just a few days? We'd love to read your story. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Sometimes, the greatest love stories don't begin with forever. They begin with one unexpected week, one open door, and one act of kindness that changes two lives forever.